So much. So what we're going to do now, I'm just going to tell you this is a joke. I'm upfront telling you that it's a joke so people shouldn't get nervous. It's a cute story. It's funny because once upon a time, like when we were growing up, you'd make these jokes about the arms race between the Russians and the Americans, and today it's not a joke. Do you know what I mean? Because everything is so what's the word? It's all on a very thin line right now. Like we're all expecting all kinds of crazy things, but this is just a joke. Okay, so the Russians and the Americans were having their arms war. And finally, they're looking at each other and they're saying, like, you know what, this is just like too much. Okay, this is getting out of hand. So, what we're going to do is we're going to settle this nice and easy. How are we going to settle this? We're going to settle this instead of having any more arms race, we're going to have a dog fight. Okay, what we're going to do is we are going to um, have one Russian dog versus an American dog and see who wins. Okay, so they're planning this whole thing. It's going to happen in a couple years. So what happens? The Russians are busy with a veterinarian and a scientist and this and that, and they're trying to create the most vicious, strongest dog, that there can be. So they're taking like the Doberman Pinscher and the Rottweiler, Ryler, and all these different dogs and crossbreeding them and this and that. And finally, the Americans are they're busy with their stuff. They're trying to produce the greatest, strongest dog. Hi, Sarah. So nice to see you. And so what happens? Finally, the day comes. Okay. And this Russian dog is so strong. He's behind like thick iron bars. And now they're going to open up the cage and he's going to come out. And then the American dog is going to come out. And so everybody's gathered and they're looking. And the Russian dog is this like vicious looking dog. And the American dog is this 9 foot long Dutch hound, the kind that looks like the hot dog with the little teeny legs and this long, incredible body. The Americans bring out that dog, and everyone's like, oh, this is terrible. The Americans, what were they thinking? And so now they open up the cage, and the Russian dog goes running. Rrr, rrr, rrr. And then this hot dog opens up his mouth and, in one bite, swallows the whole Russian dog. Like, nobody can believe this. So the Russians go to the Americans like, I don't get it. We spent years cultivating the most vicious, incredible dog, and your dog in 1 second bites him. He goes, yeah, it was all of our what's it called, plastic surgeons. That really was a crocodile. Yeah. Am I making dog jokes? Like, what does this have to do with anything? Okay, so this is what it has to do with this week's Parsha, because this last Parsha, Parsha's Bo, last Shabbos, was the first time in the Torah that I ever talked about dogs. It's an interesting idea. So, where did dogs fit into the scheme of the story? So,
That
what? So here we're right about to leave Egypt. Okay, the Jewish people are about. Am I recording? Yes. Please tell me. Do you see the word record before I go?
yes, yes.
Baruch Hashem. Thank you so much, ladies. So before the Jewish people are about to leave Egypt, okay, we're coming near the end. The Egyptians have gone through so many of the plagues. It's really not an easy story anymore. And now Moshe is having a discussion with King Paro. Okay, because King Paro is like originally he changes his mind a lot. Like there are many incidences where he goes, yes, God is the most powerful. Leave the country, and then he goes, no, I made a mistake. You're not leaving. This kind of thing. Okay, so Moshe says, I'm going to tell you now, this is your very last chance. Okay, you might be a good politician, you might think you're the smartest, but this is going to happen on a dime. Okay, and this is going to be the greatest cry that ever happened in Egypt. And all of the firstborn, including animals and people, will all be killed. All right, and on top of it, I'm never coming back to see you. You're going to come running after me and you're going to be begging the Jews to leave. And then in the middle of this very what would I call that? Like a real formal speech. In the middle, suddenly Paro says, and you should know that no dog will even bark when the Jewish people leave Israel, leave Egypt, sorry. The no dog will even make a sound when we go. an interesting idea. Like he was telling him, Hashem's going to really distinguish between us and you. You're going to be in a lot of misery and fear, and we're going to be in just a very tranquil place. So tranquil that if a dog would see us, he wouldn't even go ruff ruff. You know, sometimes you're going for a walk and somebody has their dog and it sort of gives you that little fright. No, nothing like that's going to happen. Okay? So this is the first time that the Torah talks about this concept of a dog and the idea that the Jewish people, they're going to be leaving Egypt and no dog is going to bark. Now, I want you to know so much of what happened in the Holocaust is from the playbook of Egypt. Okay? So when it talks about this idea that no slave ever left Egypt, it was because Egypt had a lot of dogs. Okay. And the dogs would be making alarm sounds, right? A lot of these, people have guard dogs that are very vicious. This is where it came from. And when you look at the Holocaust, if you look at many people who are Holocaust survivors could not stand dogs because of the German shepherds, right? And those German shepherds would hunt down the Jews. And not only would they hunt down the Jews, the Germans would, have these dogs, God forbid, tear people apart. Okay, so this isn't a simple story, right? So what's going on here is a very interesting idea. So the rabbis say, yes, number one, just if you're reading the surface of the Torah is telling you that, Moshe is telling him, and don't think your dogs are going to stop us. Do you know what I mean? Nobody's going to stop us. God is going to make it that those dogs don't even make one little peep. They're going to be like in awe and in respect of the Jewish people. That's the plain understanding. Okay? So then the rabbis say, no, there is much more going on here. So for us to really understand what's going on here, we have to look back in the Torah. And here's what we have to understand. So Moshe, they talk about how Moshe gets older. He grows up, so to speak. He's raised in the palace and he's always feeling for the Jewish people, right? Moshe knows he's a Jew. His mother nursed him like Moshe knows who he is, all right? So now he sees that Jewish people are in a lot of pain. They're in slavery. It's so sad. And he goes out. And what did they say that he saw? Does anybody remember what he saw? Anybody remember anything that he saw?
The Egyptian killing or
Excellent. Yes. Amazing, Sarah. He saw an Egyptian like beating up on a Jew and he was about to kill him. So what did Moshe do? Anybody know?
Kill the Egyptian.
Yeah, he kills the Egyptian and he hides him in the sand. And he assumes that nobody saw him. That's what his assumption is. Okay. Next day he goes out. He wants to see how the Jewish people are doing. And what does he find? Two Jews hitting each other. Okay, so two Jews, Dasan and Abiram, they're literally fighting with each other and hitting each other. So what does he say to them? He says, stop. You're being wicked. If one Jew is hitting another Jew, we're in bad shape. This isn't where we want to be, and this isn't what we want to see. Right? We're in a bad place. You've got to stop. And they turn around, and what did they say to him?
Will you kill us like you killed that Jew?
Excellent, Sarah. Like, who do you think you are? You're going to kill us like you killed that Egyptian? And a big aha moment comes to Moshe. And what does he say?
He says, perfectly explain what we have to know.
I might have he says, uh-oh, what's going on? Like, what kind of people are these? I was trying to save them. I'm trying to do the right thing. I'm trying to ease their burden. And what is this guy doing? He's threatening him. What was he sort of threatening Moshe with? Like, I'm going to tell on you. Who do you think you are? You think this was all a secret? Don't worry. If I want, I could be an informer and you're dead tomorrow. So keep your mouth shut. And Moshe realizes, the quality of the Jewish people and the way they are treating each other. First of all, they were hitting each other. And the fact that he could threaten me with these kinds of words shows me that the Jewish people are not ready for redemption. Right? Obviously, they're not a united people. And on top of not being a united people, they're speaking badly. Like if he's speaking badly about me, he's going to be speaking badly about somebody else. Okay? This is what he realized. And so the rabbis tell us what he realized was that the Jewish people spoke Lashon hara. Okay, what's lashon hara mean? Like, what does it really mean? This is a really important idea. What does it mean they spoke lashon hara? Somebody unmute, because you're all very smart ladies. So let's hear.
Well, Lashon is language and hara is bad.
Yeah, so which would mean like gossip and saying bad things about each other. And even if it's true, do you know what I mean? Like the Torah tells you, you don't have to go around going, she's fat, she's grumpy, she's this, like all of this negative language. What's the problem when people sort of tell each other secrets? Like one of the worst things you can do, really, the Torah tells you, like, this is one of the worst, is if you, it's called rechilus. What's rechilus? When you go, I just want you to know what your mother-in-law really said about you, that kind of stuff. When people come up to you and go, I just want you to know, you think she's your friend, but yesterday we were at coffee and she said, blah, 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 blah,
Mhm.
blah. Okay, the Torah tells you it is like the absolute worst thing you could do because it destroys. Like, you have a power of speech, and really the Jewish people, this is our greatest gift. We were given this power over everyone else. The rest of the world has the power of their hands. We have a lot the power of our speech. That's what it says. Kol Yaakov Yodayim Yudei Esav. Esav will have these powerful hands, warriors, killers, conquerors. But we will conquer with our mouths. And what is that? It's the three pillars that hold the world: prayer, teaching, learning, discussing Torah, and kindness. And the greatest kindness that you can do is usually with your words. It sounds very funny, but it has a lot to do with your words. Because even if you're like, someone calls you and they say, can you give me a lift? Yeah, my pleasure. Or, yeah, really? You need a lift? Like, I don't understand. What's wrong with your car? Okay. Do you see the difference? Okay. In the end, the person might say, okay, I'll give you a lift. But what's the difference with the words? And what about like, no, I'm so sorry, I really can't. I wish I could, right? Versus, no. Do you, do you see what I'm saying? Okay. So here, like, this was a real phenomena, and this is what kept the Jewish people in exile. And the Torah says this is what's keeping us in exile right here and right now, right? Right? And it's not an easy reality. It's like something that we have to really work on. Okay. We've got to really be very conscious of this idea. Okay. So it says that Moshe got very shaken when he saw these two people, and he was very shook up by the way that they spoke, right? He realized that they were willing to inform on each other. And you should know that this has been a very big problem for the Jewish people throughout the centuries. And King Paro said to himself, right? You have to think about this. Like, Paro's not an idiot, okay? He's wondering, what the heck? If God is so powerful, right? Like, let's be real about the story. God is so powerful. He's doing all these incredible plagues, right? Locusts and frogs and you name it, right? Everything, the world is being turned upside down. God's so powerful. Why does he keep asking permission from Paro? Like, Paro's sitting there going like, wait a minute here. Do you know what I mean? Like, what's going on? So he said, it obviously must be that these people aren't as worthy as we all think they are. If we're such a light unto the nations and Mashiach is supposed to be here and blah, 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 what the heck? God doesn't have the power to do it? He has the power to do it. So where's the problem? It's in the people. So Paro himself wanted this whole Lashon Hara business. Paro is the first one to come up with this idea of a capo. You know what's a capo? Like in the Holocaust, where Jews were over other Jews. And you promise them, if you hit your fellow Jew, guess what? You'll get a bigger ration of food. You won't be treated as badly. Do you see what I'm saying? So Paro came up with this. This is Paro's playbook, and then Hitler uses it. It's a crazy story, like how history goes over and over and over, right? So this problem became so bad that the second temple was really destroyed because of informers. Jews who would say to the Roman emperor, Jews are not, don't like you. So there's a very famous story that happened on Tisha B'Av. Remember the story of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa, right? Where this Jewish person had a huge party. He was a very wealthy, prestigious man. Okay. The Romans are in charge of Israel. We still have the temple, but we're not independent players. All right. So now this very wealthy man is Kamsa. And by mistake, okay, he has a friend, Bar Kamsa, who ended up being his biggest enemy. Okay. He's like his real enemy. And by accident, when they were giving out the invitations, this Bar Kamsa gets invited, okay, to the party. And this guy, who's the host of the party, hates this person so much that he wants to throw him out of the party. And it would be a very embarrassing story because here all the elites were there and the rabbis were there. It was like, one of these like Lahavdil Donald Trump, like now he has uninvited Canada in the what's it called? What's his name? His new UN, the peace of something. I forgot what it is, but he's uninvited him, right? So it's that kind of idea. All right. So this guy begged, let me stay at the party. I beg you, let me stay. I'll pay for the party. Just don't embarrass me. And the guy said, get out. When he threw him out, he said, not one other Jewish person at that party stood up for me. They all deserve to be punished. He went to the Roman emperor and he said that the Jews are not loyal to you. And he said, and I can prove it. Give me a sacrifice to bring to the temple, and you'll see they won't let that sacrifice be brought. What did he do? He took the animal and he scarred it. And really, we're not supposed to bring scarred animals. It became a big debate with the rabbis. Should they or shouldn't they? Because they didn't want to get the emperor so upset. And the final judgment was we shouldn't bring the korban. And that was it. Then the emperor said, the Jews are not loyal to me. If you look in the Shmona Esrei, like the Amida, the most famous prayer that we say, it comes with 18 blessings. There was a 19th blessing that was added after this temple was destroyed because of all of this baseless hatred. And that 19th blessing was, please God, help us against any informers. Any Jew who wants to inform and get another Jew into trouble, please, God, don't let them be listened to. It's really something to think about. Like that.
And if the guy knew that this other guy hated him, why did he go?
Because I think he thought, such a good question. Like, really, Lynette, that's a great question. I think he thought maybe he's trying to make peace with him. Do you know what I mean? Do you see what I mean? It was it's so interesting to me in the end how like human relationships, like this mitzvah of man to man, in the end is God's biggest Achilles heel. Like we can spit on God from here till tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? Like people walk out on him all the time. That's not what gets the Jewish people into trouble. What gets us into trouble is when we aren't good to each other. That's what gets it. Like Hashem says, I will forgive my own covet. Like I'll forgive you for that. I'll forgive that. But when you guys hate each other, it's like parents. Like if you're a parent, right? The thing I think, like it's like the most painful thing is when the brothers and sisters don't get along. That's really the truth. That's more painful to a parent, I think, than anything else. I'm not coming to the wedding. Like there are really stories like this. This is like really where brothers and sisters, they won't go to the other person's wedding. Like, where do you put the parent in that story? It's just so very hard. So it's just important for us to understand. So what was Moshe saying? He said the Jewish people are no longer wagging their tongues like a dog. They're not barking at each other anymore. And that's why we're going to get out now. By the end of those 10 Makkos, like by the 10th Makkah, the Jewish people had already united. Okay. And they understood we are going to be a great nation together. Right before we came on, I just put on that we have this WhatsApp for gratitude, like, this gratitude WhatsApp. And Leanne sent me she sent me a beautiful little video. They found the body of the last hostage was returned today, right? I just wanted to say his name, Ran Gavili. So he was just returned today and was incredible to see. Sorry, that's my phone. I don't know how to shut that ringer off. All the soldiers like standing around
Right.
his casket, standing around the casket, and all singing Ani Maamin together. Like, I believe that, there will be a Messiah, there will be every Jew, every soldier there. Trust me, half of them are secular, half of them are religious, half of them are this, half of them are that. But everybody, when it comes to the bottom line of the Jewish people, like, we all marched out together. Whoever left and said, okay, I'm on the team, I'm on the team. You know what I'm trying to say? And we went out together. It's really like, I can hardly wait. Like, I can hardly wait. Like, imagine Mashiach coming and all of us. Can you imagine every single Jew, like all of us together, united? I mean, like, it's breathtaking to think about it. And when I saw that little video, that's just kind of what I felt for a minute there. You know what I mean? Like, everyone saying, no, we believe that there is an end to this. There is a destiny to history. God will bring it all to a crescendo of goodness and unity. You know what I mean? So that's what Moshe was telling him, because there's a Gemara that says if a person talks Lashon Hara, he should be thrown to the dogs. Another reference to dogs. Why? Because dogs can just bark. Blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? They'll just make a lot of noise, right? They're just sending noise out. All right. And when you speak Lashon Hara, you kind of just did the exact same thing. You ever go for a walk and the dog just like turns around and goes, rah, 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 and you're jumping out of your skin? Okay. The same thing. You're just like scaring and bringing negativity and this and that into the world, just like a dog. And what you've done when you speak Lashon Hara, and this is where we have to be really careful, and it's really hard. Like, I find this very, very hard. And not to say that I'm, going around gossiping about people. You're not, but you could just be, you just tell someone something over, like my, whatever, I'm just making this up, okay? Oh, my daughter-in-law has anxiety. Like, you have to be careful because you have to know, would your daughter-in-law want you to be saying that to your next door neighbor? You know what I'm saying? We have to be really careful. And those kinds of things that come out of your mouth very easily. You don't mean it. You want to help the other person. So I want to tell you, don't feel bad. So and so also has it. But before you do that, you really have to ask
Permission.
permission. We can't make that assumption. And then we have to be really careful about all these things. So the beauty of what Moshe said was, guess what, Paro? It's not the same anymore. Now we can get out. You're banking on the fact that the Jewish people aren't worthy, and therefore you also have to give your permission, so to speak. But now they're worthy, and it doesn't really matter. They're getting out. Okay? And I think that's just important for us to appreciate. Okay? Okay. Let me see. So now we're going to talk about the Makkah that came before the one that was the killing of the firstborn, and that was the Makkah of darkness. And I think this is a really important line. So when it talks about how thick the darkness was, like it says, like there was a great fog. It talks very, very like, whoa, very, very thick darkness. So dark that the Torah says, it's interesting, the line. It said that no man could see his brother. So the rabbi said, why does it say no man could see his brother? It would make more sense to say no man could see another man. Like, why the word brother in particular for that one sentence? So the Torah tells you, because when it comes to a darkness, and I really feel this is so true, like one of my grandsons is getting bullied. Nothing, I think, do you remember anybody here ever got bullied when they were little, younger in school?
Yeah.
I did. It wasn't that, it's like the worst. It's absolutely the worst.
Mm-hmm.
because you really don't know how to handle it. You don't know what to do with yourself. You don't know where to put yourself. So it's interesting what the Torah tells you true darkness is. True darkness is when another person really can't see who you are. They can't see your pain. They can't see who you really, what you really mean, what you're really trying to say. They don't see you. Has anybody ever walked into a room where you haven't been seen? Like I remember I remember going to a wedding and the person like said hello to me, but they really weren't. They were really scanning around me. You know what I mean? Like they're going like, hello. And they're like, is there anybody more interesting to speak to than me? You know what I'm saying? Like that's what they
Or to sit next to.
yeah, to sit next to or to see, like, hi. So the Torah tells you that that's an incredible darkness. And like when these kids bully, like I really feel bad. Like, they just pick on something about you and then that's it. They're in the dark. They don't see the total picture of who you are. Like you're a skinny kid, or you're a this, or you're a that, or you're a heavy kid. That's it. That's it. Hi fatso, hi fatso, hi fatso, 100 times over and over. And you're just looking at them going like, don't you see the rest of me? Like I'm not just a fatso. I'm not just a skinny kid. I'm not just your loser. You know what I mean? Like, don't you see who I am? So Torah tells you like it is a very big mitzvah to really actually see the other person. Right? So what does to see mean? To see is just like to hear. What is it? You really have to be looking at the person, which today I think is anyway very hard because most of us are looking at technology. So it's very, very difficult for people to even look at each other, like to be honest, right? So you have to really look at the person and then you want to, when you're looking, understand what you're seeing. Like try to understand what you're seeing. Like look at the person's face, look at their eyes, look at their this, and understand what you're seeing. Are you really seeing someone happy? You seeing someone sad? You seeing someone lonely? You seeing some, right? And then act, right? Then act, then do something about it. An interesting idea. So I thought this was such an two incredible stories about the idea of seeing. So I heard them from Rabbi Fischel Schachter. So the first one was a beautiful story. He said that there was a Rebbe, that, he always had to go to board meetings and do this. Like, there's always meeting people in the community and this and that. So he had a thing that he would do that before he would go into the meeting, he'd like stand by the door and he'd kind of glance like who's there or if somebody even came to speak to him. He would always look at the person and say in his mind, I'm going to see something good about them. Like that's how like imagine people going to a board meeting and like sitting down. We should tell this to all these politicians. Like imagine you start the meeting and the way you have to start it is you have to come up with something good in that other person. That's how you start it. You're looking like he wouldn't walk into the room. This was his shita, his way of living. He wouldn't walk into the room until he made sure he saw something good in every single person that was there. Beautiful idea. Okay. So this has got to be a most phenomenal story. So, in the Holocaust, they used to have something called the roll call, which was terrible. They tortured people with this, right? In the middle of the night, they'd wake them up, right? And they make them go out in the freezing cold and they would call your number. My parents had numbers tattooed on their, I think about this, like today everybody gets tattoos, those were tattoos nobody wanted. So they had tattoos on their arms. So they would call you by your number. Like, so you were freezing cold, you're standing outside, they make you stand there for as long as, who knows how long, and they're torturing you, right? And they're calling out 0, 1, it's like 7 numbers, okay? It was probably like 7 numbers. I don't remember them all by heart, but I know them. I have like a picture of them, okay? You know what I'm saying? And they're calling out these numbers. Now, what was the purpose of doing that? Tell me why would they do this? What was the purpose of this torment?
Dehumanization.
Yes, excellent. Dehumanization, right? Because if you're just like, what is the gift of a name?
Yeah.
It's a big thing, a name. In Hebrew, in Yiddishkeit, it's the biggest deal. is getting your name. You have to make a kiddush and it has to be in shul or it's at a bris and who gets to say the name. It's like the biggest deal, okay? A name is, it distinguishes who you are. A name is part of your mission and your destiny. So you have to hear the story. I can't believe that there was a guy who would stand in that roll call, right? And he would whisper when people would say, like the Germans would yell out, where is number, whatever, 0732. He'd lean into the person and say, you're Yankee. Remember you're Yankee. Then lean into, remember you're Moishi. You're Moishi. You know, right? That was too, I mean, he ended up, I don't think he made it. He didn't make it through the Holocaust. He was caught whispering people's names. But when you stop and you think about it, what was he trying to do for those people?
Humanize them.
Yes. Bring them back their dignity. Do you know what I mean? Like to give them dignity, to realize don't let them take this away from you. You are, you know what I mean? You are someone incredibly special, someone incredibly unique. You are not just a number. And that's, I think, one of the hardest things. Like when, like 6 million people die, it's very hard to look at them as 6 million people. It becomes a number. Do you know what I mean? But here was somebody like really fighting this reality. So what are we going to do? So what do we do? So we're listening to this class and wow, it's great and it's so beautiful, it's so touching. But the point is for us to understand that we have to take on as much as we can to actually, you see someone, really see them. You see someone, really look at them, right? See the good in them. See what they're really feeling as much as you can, right? And then to try to do something. That's what's very, very important. Okay? Okay, beautiful. Okay, so now I really love this idea. This was a beautiful, beautiful idea. It's a very comforting idea for all of us. So it says that in the Chumash, it's written very interesting, that during that time of the darkness, right? So it says there was darkness all over Egypt and people couldn't get up and they couldn't sit down. It was like it was almost like a darkness that was like a very dark fog. You know what I mean? So dark that you couldn't move. Like when you're in fog, you're like who likes to drive in the fog? It's so scary. Like you don't want to move, right? So it's a really thick darkness, so thick you couldn't see your brother, so to speak, right? But it says something very interesting that wherever the Jews went, even though it was incredibly dark, there was always a light. Interesting. So the rabbis, did you want to say something, Sarah? Because you're muted. Oh no, say it again. Try again, one more time. It's muted.
There was light around them.
Yes.
They were surrounded by
yes,
light.
beautiful. So what did the rabbis tell you? This is a lesson for all of us. Because sometimes we feel like we're really in the dark, right? Like you're not necessarily comfortable where you are. It feels dark, and tonight is Adam Miller's wedding, right? So they decided they wanted to do they're very sweet, the couple, and they wanted to sort of do a little bit of a dating type of thing. Like they wanted to take all their single friends, you know what I mean? Like the boys and the girls and give them an opportunity to kind of officially meet each other. It was like a very cute idea. Okay. Why? Because for a lot of people, they're sitting alone in the dark, right? They're looking for their soulmate. They can't find them. They're having such a hard time. People whatever. So many of us, there's a part of us that feels like it's in the dark, right? Like historically, Jewish people, anti-Semitism, Israel, Iran, I can't figure this out. There's a part of us that really feels it's very dark. And you know what I mean? 100%. 100%. Okay. So what is this parsha trying to teach us, which is very important, that there is always light to be found in the dark. And Hashem is with you. There is a spark of your soul. There's God's accompanying you even in the dark. When the Jewish people went into exile, when they went down to Mitzrayim, the Torah tells you Hashem went down with them. But when they came out, he came out with them. Unfortunately, right? We went into Israel, we went out. We've been sitting in the dark for a long time, but there has always been light in the dark. And so that's a very important part for us. It's not an easy part. It isn't an easy part. I'm not going to lie. It isn't. And it takes work to find it. It takes work to dig down deep and to find whatever light that there is. But the part that we have to understand is Baruch Hashem. There is this light. And you see things change. And like we were thinking, like even think about, this couple that's getting married. They were sitting in the dark for a long time. They didn't have an easy time, these two, right? They didn't. They really didn't. So we have to appreciate, like there is, and it's interesting what it says here. It says, where does the light come from? It says that Hashem takes this light from your Gan Eden. He lends it to you. Such a cute idea. And it's your special light that you yourself created. And nobody has the same light because every one of us has such different challenges, right? Every one of us has our own darkness that we had to go through. And when you think like, what did I do? Hashem says, you know what you did? You created incredible light. And this light is going to be your reward. But right now you need some. I'm lending you some of your own light that you created, your own strength. Your own strength that you created in your past challenge, guess what? It's available for you right here and right now for this challenge. Because everybody has gone through multiple challenges. Nobody just went through one and then it was over. You're like, okay, Wish, thanks. And some people's challenges are very ongoing, but every day that they were in it, they were producing new, incredible light. So I want to tell you a nice story. So you know how I told you, oh yeah, Sarah, you're going to like this. You know how we went to the Bustiner Rebbe? Remember? The Bustiner Rebbe is like the first Rebbe, a Hasidic Rebbe who came to, not the Bustiner Rebbe, sorry, Buffalo Rebbe, Buffalo. So besides Buffalo, there were other Rebbes, like Hasidic Rebbes who were in America, all right, who like really changed the landscape. So another one of them was called the Philadelphia Rebbe. And it makes sense because when you talk about the classic Rebbes, like you call the Ger Rebbe and the Vizhnitzer Rebbe, they're named after the city. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not that the Ger Rebbe's last name is Ger. It's where he came from. Okay, the Vizhnitzer Rebbe came from Vizhnitz. So the Philadelphia Rebbe. Okay, so the Philadelphia Rebbe, it's after the Holocaust, and he's trying to build up his community. And there's a very, very wealthy philanthropist in Philadelphia that goes over to the Philadelphia Rebbe. And he says like this to him, listen carefully. He says, listen, Rebbe, I'm going to build whatever you want. I have the money. I will give you all the money. You can have all of it. I'll give you the millions that you need. It's on one condition. But what's the condition? That you give me half of your portion in the world to come. It's a good business deal. Okay, you give me half of your portion in the world to come. Okay, so the Rebbe said to him, listen, I can't even if I wanted to. So he said, why can't you? So he said, because everyone's portion belongs specifically to them and to their challenges. I can't share my portion. Mine is unique. I can't just hand it over to you. So he said, I survived the Holocaust. He said, all of us who survived the Holocaust or who went through the Holocaust, I'm not just talking about survived, who went through and survived, we have a different Gan Eden. I thought that was so beautiful. We have a different reward. Our reward is from another whole reality that people who never went through this can never really understand it. And the same thing today, like people who were recovering alcoholic, right? You're not the same. Your challenge was very different. People who didn't have kids and then after 20 years have kids, you know what I mean? Your challenge was so uniquely yours, and it produced its own unique kind of light. Okay. So I'm just going to finish with this because it's also a very beautiful idea. So there's three things that the Torah tells you have to be very, very careful with, because they can cause you incredible damage. What's the damage they can cause you? They can make you like become insane. You can't even live in this world. You become obsessed with them. Okay. And you lose what we call your world to come. You lose the light that you could have created. You don't have your portion in the world to come, right? So what are those three things? Anybody know what they are? One of them is jealousy. Anybody believe that jealousy can eat people alive? So we'll tell you a great story. Okay, so my son-in-law just told me this story. Okay, so my son-in-law, I think he actually knew who the person was. Okay, so he knew who this guy was. He was a nice, sweet guy. He was going to a wedding, and the guy, he doesn't make a lot of money. He's like, he learns a lot, spends most of his day, studying in yeshiva, and he has a small, he has a side job, whatever money he makes. Anyway, he ended up going to this big wedding. He was invited because it was his cousin. Okay. And it was like a very wealthy wedding, beautiful. These up in New York weddings can sometimes be really something. So it was like one of those big something weddings. And in Lakewood, when you make a wedding, the way they do it there is you don't have personal seating. Do you know that? If you go to a wedding in Lakewood, a lot of them just say family, friends, and that's it. You get to sit wherever you want to sit. There isn't like so-and-so next to so-and-so. Okay, gets to this fancy schmancy wedding and he can't find his card. All right. He was so not used to it. He had no idea where to sit. So they ended up, there was a table of 12 and they put him on this table where 11 people, became the 12th. And they were the 11th richest people in this area in New York. Okay, so they were like billionaires and millionaires and schmillionaires. They're very, very wealthy. And he's just this, cute little guy. Okay, so one of the very big millionaires turns to him. He has no idea who he is. So he says, "So what do you do?" So he says, "Well, this small business on the side." What? Like, what do you do with most of your time? Oh, I'm, learning. I'm a teacher, whatever. He goes, "How do you ever make ends meet?" He goes, "I don't know. Like, we try our best. We do this, we do that." So then he says, "You see this guy next to us?" I'm just like thinking in my head out loud. This guy makes in one day 5 times the amount that you make in a whole year. And he does it in one day. So he goes, "So like, how do you feel about that?" He goes, "I feel fine about it. I'm very happy with everything I have." Because how can you be happy with everything you have? It takes you like 5 years to make what this guy makes in one day, and you're happy? He goes, "Yeah, because I know I have something that none of you at this table have." So he goes, "What's that?" He goes, "Enough." Such a great line. And they actually said, they were all talking. They all started talking and they said, "He's right." Did you imagine? So we've got to be really careful because jealousy and kavod, like wanting honor, and anger are the 3 things that can take you out of this world. So it's an interesting idea. So the Torah says, so why did God make this idea of, respecting, you need respect and honor and blah, blah, blah. Why did he make this idea? It's just a nice thought. It says Hashem made respect and honor, not so that you should worry about getting it, but that you should worry about just giving it. I thought that was such a nice idea. Okay, so we are going to end, and I'm just so proud of you, and thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate it. Mwah, mwah, mwah to everybody. Okay, so everyone have a wonderful, a safe day, if you're going out. Okay, wear your boots. and your mittens and everything else. Okay. And thank you so, so much. Really. Thank you so much for coming and hope to see you. I have a class tomorrow night. Okay. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. All the best.
Shavua Tov.
Shavua tov.